think we're live right there. Now, go live at the other place. And yeah, hello everyone. I got to, I guess, finish filling all this fun stuff out. Pardon me while I put this together. Just got home from work and, got to do this stuff. Okay. All right. There and there and there. I think we're good. I think we're golden. Holly should be on here in a minute, but we'll have to see. I'm not sure. She was getting ready. So I'll pour my beverage. How's everyone doing tonight? A lot to talk about tonight. We have a guest, Chris Sloan, coming on. He is a local fella, going to be running for Senate seat 11 here coming up. Bridger Belinder announced that he's not going to seek re-election, which it's really too bad. I really like Bridger. I think Bridger is an excellent choice for the state, for the district, the county, everything else. But everyone has to kind of live their own life, They have to do their own thing. But until then, until Holly gets on here, you guys get to listen to the sultry sounds of me. We also going to talk about the active shooting at Brown University. There's a lot of, I haven't had a chance to look into it much. There's some conspiracy surrounding it. There's also the shooting at Bondi. It's spelled Bondi, but Bondi Beach in Australia. Hanukkah celebration, and a father-son duo opened up on him, and that was wild. Those guys were, I'm not going to say they're professionals or anything like that. I'm just going to say they were very proficient. And it's a sad deal, but I don't know. Sorry. It's awful that Australia has all of Europe, Australia, all of them. They've all disarmed themselves. Look, I'm not a fan of governments. I feel like that as often as they work for the people, they work against the people. But it feels like Western Europe and Australia, which to me feels like an extension, England, France, Germany, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, all of them. Kind of that cradle of, I wonder if in the future they're going to look back at it as it was all one civilization, kind of like how just your average person looks at, maybe looks at the ancient city-states of Greece as one civilization. Because they're all acting in unison. And I understand universally, the Western nations has reached that civilizational point where the wealth and the ease of life have made them quit reproducing themselves. And honestly, it feels like a suicide when you think about it. It feels like those civilizations are not only okay with them disappearing, but they're like rushing towards it. And so I get it. Their government officials will give them, will still man them. They're pushing for this immigration. If I'm still manning them, if I want to be honest feelings, I think that they look down on their people and they want to hurt them. But if I'm still manning them, they look at their civilizations as they made all these social promises, all these social safety net promises. So they 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 can't afford to keep those going if they don't have young people entering the rat race, because you've got to have population growth in order to support social services, let alone to keep a civilization alive. But when you have a civilization that's all these big promises, social security and welfare and everything else, you got to have population growth every year, or that collapses and then everything gets ugly. So they're bringing in a whole bunch of immigrants, and I imagine our Democrats, when they did that over the last 4 years, was for a lot of the same reason. Um, but there are definite downsides to that, to your society. It Well, we see it in housing prices. All these immigrants need to live somewhere. All these migrants, we'll just call them migrants, need to live somewhere. And so they impact that supply and demand. And when you have a regulation heavy, bureaucratic government that restricts building, that further hurts that. All these migrants should, say in a perfect world, all these migrants seek employment somewhere and seek to become a part of that society, which drives down the wages again in a supply and demand market. That's extremely harmful to your citizens, especially. It's not harmful to your professionals. It's not harmful to your white collar. It's not it's not necessarily harmful on that. It's extremely harmful to your teenagers, to your entry level people. Um, it feels like we're kind of we've come through a social media crash that was kind of initiated by Elon Musk when he fired, what was it, 2/3 of Twitter, and it still functioned exactly at the level. It didn't have the control that they had on it before, but it functioned still, didn't crash, didn't anything else. And then Facebook followed, and Google, and everywhere is following that model. Now AI is entering the fray. And so we're going to have, and with all the automation, I mean, I work in industry, in manufacturing, and all that automation has made it so that we can produce twice as much with half as many people. And that's only come across the last 20 years. So you bring immigration in on top of that, and that further drives down the job market, it further, or the employment market. It's kind of a war on wages. And Holly's not here, so I can free roll on this, but it makes me wonder if we're not going to have to see one of those dirty socialistic programs to come through just to maintain it. That's a scary thought, you know? I mean, are we going to have to see a UBI just for the survival? Are we going to have to see more controls? And I don't like the idea, but I wonder, what is it going to look like? I guess if there's trade-offs everywhere. If you live in the city, you pay this huge rent, but then again, you don't necessarily need to own a vehicle. So that takes that part out of the equation where buying the vehicle and the gas and the insurance. Out here, mass transit wouldn't make any sense. It really wouldn't. It would. I mean, you could make it work if you made every business align their hours of work as to when mass transit could travel through. But I drive, I think it's 38 to 47 miles a day, somewhere in there, every day. And I do it at speed. It takes me 35, 40 minutes to get to work. But how would that work with mass transit? I work out in the middle of nowhere where the oncoming rotation is 8 to 10 people. Would you shuttle a whole bus that way? And then you go further out, you got Clean Harbors and Aragonite and all those places. I don't know how big their oncoming shifts are, but would the bus just continue on, and would that align with hours, or would you find people having to upset the manufacturing requirements in order to meet mass transit? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense we don't even really have a taxi company out here, or even like Uber or Lyft. I'm sure there's a few of them, but we're such a small area that no one gets into that. Now, Uber Eats and the food delivery, that's a growing business everywhere. I think that's kind of crazy stuff, but I don't know. Makes me wonder what's going on with that. And I'm doing this delaying action, kind of waiting for Holly to get on. And then of course we got Chris Sloan coming on. He's going to be running for the District 11 Senate seat next year when that election's up. As we know, our seat got swapped from Republican to Forward Party, and I've met Forward Party people. I actually went to one of their election night meetups that was at the Capitol. An eclectic bunch of people, forward looking, I guess, so the name is apt, but they are universally big government. Their kind of government is the answer. And I really have a hard time thinking about a problem where government stepped in and posed a solution that didn't have Faustian trade-offs that were so damaging. It all kind of reverberates. But I don't know. You guys tell me what you want to talk about, because Holly is running extremely late, unless she planned on the show being even later. I don't know. And then we got the shootings, the Brown University shooting. So on the 13th of December, um, some guy went into the, what is it, engineering building, um, and started opening fire. But the one of the crazy things about it that everyone's looking at is that it seemed like he targeted he targeted hold on, Holly. He targeted a lot of his he targeted one individual a lot, is what people are saying. That one young lady, uh Republican activist lady, he targeted her a lot. And it makes me wonder if, the conspiracy is that a lot of people think that she was the actual target. And that would be awful. Sorry, Holly wants me to resend the link. But anyways, so just to go into conspiracy land, to think about it excitingly, what if she was the target? Political or romantic reasons, whatever, and he to cover that up, he shot other people as well. But it's a horrible thing. A single gunman shot 11 people at the Brown University School of Engineering, Barris and Holly building. Most of the shooting was inside the first floor, 186 seat room 166, where 21-year-old teaching assistant Joseph Orduro was leading a review session for the final exam. But yeah, it just sounds like I don't know. This stuff's happening too much. Two people were killed and 9 wounded in the shooting. Ella Cook was the conservative girl, and she was the vice president of Brown's College Republicans. And Muhammad Aziz Mozurakov, Uzbek American, he was the other person who was killed. And then there were 9 others shot. They're not giving the names on the 9 others shot. The guy's still at large. Quickly that day, they pulled a guy in for questioning, and then apparently he wasn't. They didn't have enough evidence to either charge him, or they don't think it was him. But Holly is locked out. So yeah, I don't know. All right, 1 second. Sorry, guys. This has got to be super fun while we deal with all this stuff always. Okay. But yeah, horrible situation. I don't know. They don't talk about the guy went in, shot it, and then escaped. That's not common. Brown University is in Providence, Rhode Island. I don't know what Rhode Island's crimes are like. It's a tiny state. I know that. Um, it's weird, they probably have school shootings every day in big inner cities, Chicago and Baltimore and Mobile and what have you. And they kind of go unreported because it's become an overload of information from that situation and that location. Um, but it's not often we have them at colleges. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. Let's say the guy just snapped and did the evil thing. What's causing the young men to do it? It seems like there's been an escalation over the last 15, 20 years. My argument is that, and I've argued this before, young white men have been kicked out of society. I'm fine. I'm not just fine. I'm fully supportive of a level playing field of equal opportunity for everyone. But that's not what we did here in the US. We went unequal. We made it so that you can be racist, but only against white men. You can have prejudice openly. You can have prejudice openly, but only against white men. And now we see this rise of, and I've talked about it on the show before, this rise of young white men who have become, I don't know, angry. Maybe angry is not the word. There's something different going on. Is this something we're gonna? They have become further right wing, but also right wing in not as we've understood it till now. They're big government right wing. Is in 10 years, are we going to see voting and election habits that are kind of scary? Is that where we're looking at? All right. Holly made it. She figured it out. She's only 26 minutes late.
I think someone's hacked my Facebook account.
Uh-oh. Hope you didn't have anything incriminating on there like the secret plans for the Tooele County Republican Party.
No, it just keeps telling me there's an error. Every time I give him my password, there's an error. And
Oh, okay.
thank you, Meta, because that messenger is also tied to it. But hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Such an exciting show.
We should probably play the announcement. I should have done that earlier. Let's get that out of the way.
Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
All right. Thank you, KMMU. So, William, how are you doing? William says, hi, Jared and Holly. So I was just chatting about how, like, the last 20 years, we've seen school shootings, of course, on the rise. And I was pondering that I feel like it's probably because young white men have been, for all intents and purposes, kicked out of society.
Well, we've also had a bunch of confused folks also who might have been pumped up on hormones and other drugs.
That is more recent. That is
Yes.
the last couple of years.
Yes.
But I'm saying over the last 20 years, we've had young men who have snapped and gone on shooting rampages. And I think that's my feeling is that's because, like that old African proverb where if you don't leave a place in the village for the young men, they will burn it down just to feel its warmth.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've done that. They made it under Obama. Remember when he did that Title IX change, it came with the provision that any charge of sexual impropriety, they made it so there wasn't even an investigation. And a lot of colleges got sued and lost. And it got crazy that young men were just thrown under the bus over and over. And I'm going to openly say it. I blame the Democrat Party for 75% of our societal ills. The Republicans are not blameless. The Republicans, they spend like drunken prostitutes. The Republicans are awful. They're the only thing worse than a Democrat with the state checkbook is a Republican with the state checkbook.
That's fair. I don't think anyone's arguing that.
You know, you always hear the argument.
It's mostly in DC. I mean, locally, they don't have that.
No, that is true.
Ability.
Well, small towns are more controlled, and our state is very controlled on its spending.
Yeah, they have to do a budget. It's actually in our Constitution.
I think we're supposed to do a budget federally. I think it's in the Constitution as well. How's that going?
Bog us down with facts, why don't you?
I
am.
Oh, we got Chris on now.
Excellent. Now, I didn't get a profile from Chris, so we're just going to introduce him and let him kind of introduce himself.
All right, sounds good.
Chris has been a dear, dear friend. Him and his wife, Berna, have been dear, dear friends to my family. And he is my mentor. He is a party chair prior to me.
Hold on. We're getting an echo.
From me?
No, I think it's...
From me?
I think so. That might control it. We'll see.
Well, and Chris, why don't you tell everybody like your role in the community and the things that you do both for your career and also for just because you're crazy and just love to help people.
Hi, Holly. Hi, Jared. I'd really kind of like to get back to your introduction. It sounded like I was pretty cool.
You are pretty cool. You are one of the coolest guys I know.
I appreciate that. I'm a realtor. I've been a realtor since 1994 when I came to Tooele County and moved out here and never left. And so I still do that. That's still my day gig with my amazing wife, Berna, who's the best realtor there is. And I have lots of little part-time gigs. Most of them don't pay anything other than the sense of well-being and keeping out of Berna's way so she can do more real estate. But I'm a planning and zoning commissioner for Tooele City, have been for about 13 years. I am a part-time community relations manager for Energy Solutions. I succeeded Joyce Hogan in that role a few years ago. I sit on the board for Life's Worth Living Foundation out here in Tooele County. Just lots of little things like that. I'm very active, and frankly, I'm missing a city council meeting right this minute that I would only do for you, Holly.
Thank you. And I know that you are in more meetings than even I am when it comes to county council and knowing what's going on within the politics of the county. You're everywhere all at once, all the time. So our community is lucky to have somebody who actually is engaged. You offer a lot of common sense advice to both political people as well as neighbors and friends like myself who just sometimes need to hear it from you straight, because I know you never to lie, and I also know that you are very upfront and well educated in the issues that affect this county especially.
Well, I grew up the son of a salesman, and we moved. I was born in Southern California, but we moved every year and a half until I went to high school, and so for me to have been in Tooele for 30 years, this truly is what I consider my hometown. I graduated high school in Park City back when it was a small town. But I've been out here for, wasn't then, but I truly consider Tooele City and Tooele County as my home, and I don't see us ever leaving. So I care a lot about this area. I care what happens to it, and I care about the people. I've raised my kids here, raising grandkids here, and I can't imagine being anywhere else.
That's excellent. Well, Jared and I have been talking on the show quite a bit over the last 2 years about housing, and more times than not, I think Jared knows more about you based on what I talk and when I mention you on this topic of how bad I wanted you on the show to shed some light on one huge issue that I don't think just our county faces, but a state, where they're not building any starter homes anymore. You know, the 1,100 square feet homes we all grew up in, you know, when we're little, and then our parents end up selling and getting something bigger. I think it's what, under 10% of housing built is a small starter.
I would suggest it's even less than that. As small as possible. You can still do small, but $500,000 is not really a starter home. So to your point, and go back a little bit in history, and you both will remember the debacle that took place in 2007, 8, and 9. And rates were at the time were running around 7%. I did my first new construction sale in 1994 at 12%. I'm second generation, so I watched my dad at 18%. So a lot of things happened at that point, and we're still paying the price for that today. Specifically, rates went down to 3%, thinking that would stimulate things, which it did, but they were never meant to stay there. And so what it meant was that a young family starting out could all of a sudden skip the entry level starter home and go right to that first or second move up home. And so for a generation, essentially, from that time on until the last 4 or 5 years, we stopped building that home. We started building that first or second move up home and expected our kids to just move into that. But the FHA loan limits in Tooele County at that time were $106,000 to $130,000, and at 3%, most kids could jump into that house and take off.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, reality hits. Rates, as you saw in the last couple of years, have gone up closer to 7 and plus 7. But our appreciation, because Utah in general and Tooele County specifically is such a wonderful place to come, and we're still $70,000 a house cheaper in Tooele than we are in Salt Lake or Davis or Utah County. Those prices just went crazy and are still going crazy. What didn't go crazy is the job growth, and not necessarily the number of jobs, but the quality of jobs and the paying jobs. You guys both know we ship 70% of our workforce to the Wasatch Front every day. It takes $130,000 a year plus in income just to buy an average house in Tooele County these days, at $450,000, $460,000. So long way around the barn, we stopped building starter homes for a decade. And we're just now starting to see that ramp back up in the last 2 or 3 years. So the problem that's come that hasn't solved, we can build them cheaper. The land hasn't gotten cheaper. The land's appreciated just like everything else. Government regulations haven't gone down like everything else. So we're still playing from behind. Even if we went down to Tooele City today and said, let me build some density on a 4,000 square foot lot, we still would have a hard time getting that down anywhere close to $300,000. And so we've got multiple problems to deal with before this gets solved. Supply is the first one.
You would also have problems with the public not wanting high density. That is a scary word for them. Another word that it gets thrown around all the time is the word affordability, which is a word that is relative. What you can afford may not be what I can afford, but they strap that word on there. And Jared and I learned about a development happening in Park City, and they said we have affordable housing. And so we were both hyped, like, oh, what's affordability in Park City? And what did they say, Jared? It was 400?
I think, well, it was apartments built at the old Walmart there, right off the Summit. Everyone's familiar with that Walmart that was right there, the McDonald's and the Walmart.
Yeah, Kimball's Junction.
And I think the starting rate was in an apartment was $500,000, but they were low rent. And then after so much time on low rent, because they all make these deals that they have this starting package that looks good for the community, and then it reverts to ownership, and then they're selling them for
back to market
1.2,
And these were built to help the workers doing the work, the road work, and all of that. And my brother was a police officer in Summit County, and those apartments were a common every night call. It was just a lot of domestics and theft and all kinds of stuff. And so the neighborhood wasn't so great to where the average person looking to buy something in Park City would go there. They just wouldn't. But affordability was that $500K, which most of us here in the county, I mean, maybe our houses are worth that, but I don't know how many people could get into a $500K mortgage, especially a senior citizen or a startup family.
Not after the interest rate jump.
Yep. The rates are settled down a little closer to 6, and that's a realistic number if you just look at it by itself. But the 6% rate I was writing homes at in 1999 at $140,000 average sales price versus 6% at $460,000 this year, it's a whole world of difference.
And the real income hasn't gone up to match what the
nowhere close. I put a young couple into a townhouse here in Tooele about a year ago, and they both make over $22 an hour, and it's taking every single dime they've got. It took them to get in there, and heaven forbid if they have a job change, and they're just starting out and they're doing it right. They saved money and they got in there and they got a great deal. The builder took really good care of them. And if they can stick with it, I did check on them because, tax increases happen. They didn't happen much in Tooele City, but your tax bill still went up, and they're hanging on and they're doing all right. But they're going to have to do a little better if they want to stay in it.
That's what I want to get into next is the tax.
Well, I wanted to go back. If we were to, so you mentioned a couple different issues. We've got the appreciation of everything, the 6% interest rate, and government regulations. If we, as a civilization, wanted to correct this, which would be the most efficient avenue to focus on? The interest rate scares me because I don't want to see any more inflation. I'd like to have savings mean something, but I understand there is a need or an ability for that. But what would be a realistic avenue to approach this from?
Jared, I'm going to throw a couple of more spokes in that wheel for you besides those.
Yeah, do it.
The cost of building itself, materials, has skyrocketed over the last decade, and cost of labor. Remember, go back to when we had the horrible crash in 2009 through 12. Most of the trades had to go out and get a real job because we stopped building houses.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we're saying, hey, we're 400,000 or we're 45,000 homes upside down in Utah. Let's start building. And we look around and there's nobody to build it. And then we jump into, what does immigration have to do with that? Well, guess who was hanging your sheetrock? Guess who was doing your framing? Guess who's doing your flat work? So again, those people that are still in the trades can jack their prices up, as they should. It's the free market. So cost of building the home is up. The cost for dirt is up. Municipalities, whether it's your city, your county, whatever, anywhere from 20 to 30% of the cost is into government regulation. Your wages haven't
And
gone
that's
up.
on one of your larger homes, one of these 2,000 square foot starter homes, not like the 1,000 square foot starters where that'd be what, 60% of the cost is into regulation.
If we stick with those numbers, if I'm anywhere close on those numbers, now that a lot of those impact fees are tied to the appraised value of the property, so that's going to fluctuate. But the 20% is 20%, whether it's on a 1,000-foot house or a 3,000-foot house. So while that slides a little bit, it's still a high percentage of the cost, which gets passed along to the end user. So when everybody says they have a silver bullet for this, and Jared, what you're asking me for is which of those 3 things or 5 things I want to get rid of. Can't get rid of any of them. We've got to solve every one of those to a degree, and that's everybody working together. That's the landowner being a little less, I'm going to say greedy. I don't necessarily mean greedy. They should get all they get. It's their land.
Right.
The suppliers, the trades that are building it, the municipalities, the original developer. Developers get a bad name, but the reality is, Jared, I don't know where you live. I know where Holly lives. And guess what? She had a developer. Somebody developed that area that she lives in. They developed the area that I live in. So developers become a bad word, and I've never been a developer. But at the end of the day, it's developers that are building the cities that we call home. So there's a role for all of those spokes to play in this wheel, or it's not going to roll right.
I do know historically land prices always climb right before a crash. Every time. They always climb because people who are smart start recognizing what's over the horizon and they start buying what's tangible. And
they're not making any more of it.
The first most tangible thing is land. That's the most important thing you can get into. And if you can't get into land, you get into precious metals. If you can't get into that, you get into art. You get into something that you can hold on to that doesn't have a natural built-in depreciation.
Well, you're talking about people way above our pay grade.
Yeah, and those are the ones that generally tend to weather the crashes you're talking about better than the 3 of us would. But I don't see, to your point regarding a crash, the thing that's screwing that all up right now, if you want to call it that, is the supply and demand issue, the economics 101. We probably would have already, when inflation's hitting 8 and 9% and interest rates are at 7% and values have gone through the roof. All those things add up to a crash, but they didn't because we've still got a huge demand for limited supply. So
I think
we're looking at National Association of Realtors is predicting about a 4% appreciation in 26. That's pretty healthy. That's I would love to see that on a year-to-year basis. 3 years ago when we were seeing 34 and 38%, not sustainable, and that's not healthy. And
who can afford to pay the tax on that? I mean, people can't afford the tax.
What I think has been holding off a big crash is is the petrodollar? Is the dollar being sustained around the world?
That's possible. And I'm certainly not an economist, but it kind of cracks me up. At the end of the day, they can all scream about how much they hate America, but at the end of the day, it's our currency, it's our wealth and our strength that they either want to emulate or they don't want to irritate. So
that is true. But what I mean by that is there's still trust in it. It's just the further we devalue our dollar and the further we leverage our populace for interest on big government spending, I'm afraid if we had 3 of the big countries around the world decide that they're going to step off the dollar, we're done. If China stepped off the dollar, we might be done just by them alone. But, if we had, say, France will play a weird game, say just 3 European countries. Those are all middle-sized countries now, but I think that would severely hurt us. I think we would wake up the next morning and gas would be double the price it was when we went to bed.
You're talking about those Euro countries that use different currency than ours?
They all still trade with the dollar.
Okay.
When a country trades with another country, they do it with dollars. Now, euro, they inside the Eurozone, they do it with euros. But if say Germany is going to buy Russian gas, they buy it with a dollar.
and the Russians take it.
Yeah.
And of course, the Russians take it, and everyone's going to take it. But I'm just wondering when are, I don't know. If we make it, we'll be only the second time to survive with this level of loans against a country. And the only other time is Japan, and that Japan does it because they're an insular society that's willing to eat it for their country. Other than that, we'll be the only other one ever in history, ever.
I would
Holly,
like
we're
to
making you
thank
crazy. What's up?
Well, I want to talk about, when we do get these homes, right now, gas prices are dropping. That should make some products drop. We did see a high skyrocket in products when people are trying to build. Sheetrock was more. You've got a lot of this immigration stuff where they're getting, mass immigration out of the country, hopefully bringing more jobs to Americans in that way, learning a trade and a lot of focus on trade. Where I see it, a big problem is, yes, we're that family that has saved, and we've bought our first home, and it's in between a starter and a step up home. And we can afford it now. But then year after year after year, taxes keep going up. And pretty soon, even though they have no intentions on selling this home, now they're looking at a tax bill that is possibly forcing a sale. And I mean, my taxes have gone up thousands since over the last 5 years. And if my house was for sale, I would be like, okay, look at what it's worth. But it's not for sale. And paying those taxes, and I think on senior citizens and young families, I mean, we're seeing senior citizens lose their homes, their paid off homes, because a tax bill is out of even what they can afford. And so I think there's got to be something put in place to help people with that tax structure. Something.
I sense you're looking for, again, the silver bullet, and I get it. That's something that we've talked about, and I say I've been going up to the legislature since 1997 to advocate for property rights and home ownership. The problem we run up against when we try to do something about property tax, for example, is that there are certain parts of government that depend on that property tax because it's the most stable revenue source they have. And I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or different, but that's the reality. The people that let's use that as, let's call that gospel for today. The folks that you're speaking of, the people that can least afford the increases, and the wealth that's being built but can't be liquid. There are programs out there to help some of those folks out there. On the other hand, you've also got some legislators that are trying to get rid of some of those to streamline some things. And then there's also the argument, and I think you're going to see a report come out from the Taxpayers Association in the next little while, and I'll be shocked if it doesn't call out government, because government budgets at all levels have skyrocketed.
Right.
And Jared, you've touched several times on inflation. These budgets in a lot of places have outpaced inflation by a ton. So when they come back to the public saying we need to raise your taxes because of inflation to keep up with inflation, sounds good, and some of them that's reality. But there's way too many governments at the local, state, and federal level that have just decided that it's easier for me to go to my people and fill that coffer up with tax dollars than it is to look within and see what can we do to lower the costs of how we do government, just like you guys do in your house. And so I expect to see that report come out, and I'll be shocked if it doesn't talk about that a little bit. I don't know how we solve the problem for everyone, because let's say that the elderly that you're talking about, Holly, they get some sort of a deferral or something, some program like some of the veterans programs out there, which are wonderful.
Yeah.
But the county budget is what the budget is. It's what the legislature sets the tax rate. They have to either take that tax rate, or if they're going to do something more, they do tooth and taxation. But for every dollar that we save that veteran or that elderly person, that dollar's got to come from somewhere else, and it comes from us. Because the level of revenue that the entities are going to get by statute, they have to get it. And
it's kind of a low-key big fear.
That's a tough one.
That's kind of a low-key big fear of mine. I know it sounds, I'm a crazy libertarian guy at heart, but I'm torn on this, where the boomers, the largest voting bloc ever, is probably going to succeed over the next 5 years on making it so retirees don't have to pay property taxes. And that's going to force all of that cost onto everybody else. When they were fine having their parents pay it, they voted for their parents to pay it and their grandparents. They voted to raise it on them. But they're a large voting bloc, and the boomers have destroyed this nation. And if you're a boomer, I apologize, but you have.
I'm the last year of the boomers, so I get it.
Every decision that's taken us down the wrong path was done by one generation, and they are going to probably make it so that their generation, when they retire, pays no property taxes. My father's a boomer, love him to death. My uncles, aunts love them to death, but as a voting bloc, they're just such a large voting bloc. And so
we're getting smaller by the day.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. It's proven that more of them vote than did before, because retirees tend to vote more than people working.
He's saying they die, Jared.
We're doing it every day, but
still,
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but the problem with that is, and the good folks at the legislature, which are all smarter than me on this stuff, are working on it. They're looking at it. They're commissioning these studies, like I talked about with the Taxpayers Association. They're trying to figure out a way, because we've all been hit with this tax burden, and it's the municipalities are getting more money than they ever have. The school districts are getting more money than they ever have, and the argument is it's the way it's being spent, the way it's being handled, that has a big piece of how we solve this problem.
And you know what, Chris? I think you were in that meeting along with all of everyone else from Tooele County with the school board meeting, and it felt like a direct slap in the people's face that to ask questions. Why do we need this many directors making 200,000+? Why are we showing such terrible test scores, and teacher morale is down in the pits, and yet you're wanting more money? And I think the accountability and the transparency on school board, especially because most people don't know who their school board elected is. And yet that person has so much power over what's happening in your household financially. And I've even suggested we make it a partisan race, just like they did with the state school board. I think it would be nice to actually have a party banner that actually gets these people in front of delegates, gets them in front of the public, and they explain if they're conservative, what their values are. And I think they'll try like hell not to let that ever happen. But to me, it makes sense that we know who's getting in that seat and we know their values and what they believe as far as education goes and spending. But in our county and many others, thanks to the Utah Tax Commission, to go in and really look at that meeting and say, this meeting wasn't notified correctly, you didn't do everything correctly, therefore your taxes doesn't stand. Well, that's great, but I guarantee next year it does. I guarantee next year they cover all their bases and they go for more, because we see that a lot.
I don't think I heard a question in there, but I think I have one that will fit. And I understand what you're saying about the partisan, making those partisan. I'm not sure that gets us where we need to go. I think there's an educational component missing amongst all of our electorate. There's nothing that says I can't do that right now, Holly. I can't call my school board member before they run for office and find out what they stand for.
Right.
We are really, really lazy on school board elections. And I don't know if that's a partisan issue or not, if people don't care, because it's not. Our total voter turnout over the last 10 years would indicate to me they don't give a rat's rear end what party they are. They're not showing up. And I'm not one of those, like you said, we're at the school board meeting. I don't follow the school board stuff. I've got my plate loaded with everything else, and I guess I should be. But you know what? I know my school board member. And I asked him those questions. I knew what he was about before he got in there. And luckily for me, he's done exactly what he said he was going to do when he was voted in. So I'm not going to lay the whole thing at the feet of the school board when we ultimately are the ones that are responsible for putting him there. And if I need them to put a party banner behind it for me to take an interest, that's on me. That's not on them.
I agree.
I just think we see a little more engagement, and especially, meet the candidate nights. I think Camille Knutson is the only school board member I've ever had that's asked, hey, do you mind if I go meet people at your meet the candidate night?
Well, not just that, but she's open.
I said, absolutely. And she was the first one. And just watching her engage with the delegates and actually get to hear what the issues are. And I think it made her a much better candidate, and she did win during that. But that's when it sparked, like, why aren't we? I mean, every year I invite them to come to the Meet the Candidate nights, just for the sake of educating our voters where I can about who's running and what they're about. And that's what Jared and I try to do on here, is invite Democrats, and we try to invite the municipality race folks and the Republicans. We so badly want our people in this community to at least recognize the names on the ballot, and in their mind they can associate it with, oh, that's Chris. He's the guy that told me all about the housing crisis and things going on in this state, that maybe we need deregulation, and what we know we do. Infrastructure is a big deal. Is that something developers should be fully responsible for? All these house rooftops going up. Why do we need to raise taxes? We're getting more and more rooftops. People don't understand the police that goes into it, and the emergency that goes into it, the roads that need to be expanded. There's so much about just one development that, could you shed light on that, where infrastructure goes and how that works? Because you get to see the same thing I do. Developers go in, and it's a 3-year plus process trying to get that development to the public's liking, and they are trying to do it, but eventually they should be able to develop their property. It's theirs. They're following the planning and zoning rules. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that and infrastructure where developers are concerned.
Two answers to those two questions here. And the first one, while I'm thinking about it, we talked about how the municipalities handle their money. There are cities and counties in this state who do everything possible to turn that into a 3-year process. And you threw 3 years out there. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. The developers are in business, and time is money, and they understand that. Cities understand it too. If we can drag our feet enough on this stuff, they're going to go away.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want residential subdivisions, because residential subdivisions, we've talked about property tax, are taxed at a reduced rate. And incidentally, don't be shocked if the next legislative session you see some legislation looking to jack up your exemption from 55% to something more. Anyway, so there's some bad actors out there that just want to stop the growth. And I struggle with that, because I think everybody, if you ask anyone, they'll say, yes, we absolutely need starter homes. But I don't want them here. I want them somewhere
They
over there.
also want a Costco, but
Yes,
they don't understand.
But we don't want any rooftops to go
Costco
with the Costco.
requires 200,000 residents
Right.
before
So
they come in.
we all want the goodies. We all want the small town. We all want that lifestyle, that idyllic little house on the prairie lifestyle. That's not reality here. And that reality does include commercial, which is taxed at 100% of property. You also get sales tax revenue. I've watched from afar as Grantsville and their citizens deal with some of these issues over the last couple of weeks. And the citizens are talking about the cost of infrastructure if we don't have a certain retailer pay their share. Not understanding that retailer probably pays more in sales tax. And I understand it's the people that pay it, but the pass through from a retailer is exceptionally high. And so they may waive some of those fees, but the idea behind waiving them is we're going to collect them really fast back with increased tax revenue. So that's one thing. Residential, there are tools that the legislature's put in place that developers can use. There is an infrastructure bank, for lack of a better term. There is money available to help with some of those things, because again, when you're talking about affordability, and I don't like to use affordability anymore because it's not a real word. Attainability is a real word. And so I use attainability, but every time we've got an annexation here in Tooele City, a couple of miles away from me, that is going to require the police presence. It's going to require water and sewer, and they're going to have to tie into all that. There is a legitimate impact there. That's infrastructure. The increased traffic on the roads, most of the time the cities require a traffic study. They require a sewer and water study. So all that stuff is already in place. But the developer wants that done way faster than the 3-year number that you used. And because that interest on the money that they're either borrowing to do it or losing is a deal breaker in that attainability thing. That $200,000 house they want to buy just became $300 because of the $20 million worth of sewer treatment plant they've got to do. So all of those things, infrastructure is top of mind for me, whether it's that sort of infrastructure or the roads of getting out of here every morning. All those things are important, and developers have their share in that. Some of it gets passed on to the end user. Municipalities have to understand too, and in a lot of cases, they talk about the cost to service that new subdivision. They don't talk about the revenue that's generated by the people that buy those houses. How much sales tax they pay at the new Smiths, for example. Busiest Walmart in the West, right down the street. Busiest McDonald's in anywhere, right down the street. Those are all benefits that they don't necessarily think about when all they're focusing on is, hey, I've got to hire another police officer.
It's true. It's true. And infrastructure, it just makes projects go way higher. And I've seen, Mr. White, for example, go in and say, I'll give you more green space, I'll give you a school, I'll do this, and then get slapped in the face. Well, we want 1 acre lots. You're making them too small, turning what was planning on being small family homes into that second tier, third tier type retirement tier homes. And I get this a lot, and I know you do too. It's not in my backyard.
Yep.
It's a phrase that in any county right now, anywhere, they don't want the growth. And yet we're going to need the growth if you want these other goodies. And if we want to stop 80% of our population going around the mountain every day, that growth has to include businesses. It's got to include good paying jobs that both focus on the trades, as well as doctors and lawyers and, high paying jobs, because we're a community that's in need of all of those things. And so I just wish that the public could really understand how highly important it is that this county grows smart, and it grows slowly, but it also, that there's accommodation everywhere, as much space as we actually have to grow out. Eventually we're going to have to grow up. I mean, we are surrounded by BLM land, and as we're growing, we are going to need to increase our police, and we are going to need to widen roads. And now I'm hopeful that there is an answer to where Erta, Lake Point, I mean, Stansbury, we don't have the space. It feels like we're a bedroom community, but Lake Point has 36 and Erta has 36, and Tooele is doing their best to get economic development here, Grantsville as well. I think the more businesses we invite out here, the better it is for the taxpayer all day long.
Well, the cool thing about what you just said, and it's something that not everybody thinks about, there was a time, certainly in Tooele City, Tooele County in general, but where we were having to incentivize businesses to come here with tax breaks. Tooele's not doing that anymore. And that's an important thing to understand, that from an economic development standpoint, it's getting done right in Tooele County. And people want to come here. They finally figured out they're out of land on the other side of the mountain. And whether it's to come up with housing or retail or industrial or whatever it is. And got a lot of people complaining about the growth and the traffic, and I get it. My wife, who was born and raised here, and reminds me constantly that the 32 years I've lived here still constitute me being a newbie.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
The reality is it is happening because there's nowhere else to go. You can't go east from the Wasatch Front, because we've already talked about Park City and the pricing in Summit County, where their average sales price is well over $1 million. We're going as far north as we can realistically in Box Elder County, because it makes sense to commute that hour and a half. Same thing at the south end. You're down to Salem and Santaquin and Spanish Fork and all those places. So the logical place with open space is Tooele County. And so that's a benefit for us in a lot of ways. We're a ways away from that Costco that everybody wants. But the reality is, you've put the nail on the head. We've got to figure out a way to create quality jobs out here, not just good retail waitress jobs or dishwasher jobs or any of the hourly things that we're doing here. And you're starting to see over the Peterson Industrial Depot, specifically, a lot more tech, a lot more industrial, a lot more higher paying jobs, because the reality is for our families, your kids aren't quite old enough to move out yet. Mine are out and grown, and they've given me great grandkids. And you know what? Some of them live in my basement right now. And
that's reality.
I've got a son that's making well over $30 an hour, and can't afford to rent in this market.
Yeah,
so circling all the way back to where you started, Jared, the spokes in that wheel all need to be trued up. We need to be spinning in the right direction, and we need to pull in the right direction. And everybody's got a role to play in that.
Do I sound crazy when I say I think our focus should be universally as people to get our government under control? All governments, and that's including the school board, that's your municipalities, all that that they need to, I don't know where they can trim the fat, but they need to all open up and find a place to do that. It's hands down, the school board can trim the fat. Our school district can, all of them can. When you look at their parking lot,
I don't know a ton about it, and I feel like I've been lax over the last 20 years because I've dove into every other level of government we have, except one that's probably the most important. They're the ones that are taking the lion's share of our property tax dollars. I'm not the only one that looks down at our beautiful new Deseret Peak High School, and I'm of two minds of that school.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a work of art.
It is the prettiest school you'll ever see.
But I'm not sure that under current statute, we could do anything different than that. And I think that needs to be looked at, and maybe it is being looked at. If I go to build a house, I'm not going to be able to build a Taj Mahal. I've got to look at what do I need. When my wife and I moved to this as our last home, and we needed two things. We needed a big kitchen and we needed a big garage. And everything else came secondary to that stuff. And I don't think the school district is able to do the things that they want to do simply because of the way the funding mechanisms are in place. And again, if I'm wrong about that, somebody can correct me. I probably should have called Camille Knutson because she's a fantastic wealth of information for me on that stuff. But I look at those schools, and I look at the schools we've done around the district over the last 20 years, and it's easy to have hindsight. It's easy to look back and say, well, we should have done this, should have done that. We should have seen the growth. The reality is there's fat to be trimmed in every government. And some cities are doing it right, or more right than others. Some are not even making the attempt. I think the state of Utah makes the attempt, and we may all disagree with everything that they do. But by and large, I think we're pretty lucky to be here because most of our elected officials, certainly at the state and most local levels, understand that that's the first place they need to cut, and not come looking for my wallet.
And I would just like to mention legislatively, a lot of things need to be fixed because the school board does have their hands tied on a lot of things based on the state. For example, when they build that high school, they don't take into account all the building permits that are sitting in Jerry's office that, with the year of how many new places are going up, they take into account what we need right now. And that's a legislative thing, that a policy they're following. And, our legislature, our Senate should probably ease that so that all of the counties and school districts can look at what's going on in the building permits, how many are they expecting in the next year, and build a high school to accommodate the newcomers, because most times they build a high school that's going to be already too small by the time it's open. And then this, Deseret Peak with this, almost collegiate stadium and a big statue and atrium. I mean, these are beautiful things, but no wonder they went over budget. And the problem is the transparency has been not really there. So to go to a meeting and listen to their need for more money, and most people are hearing it for the first time, and yet this has been an ongoing issue through the summer, and they're pointing fingers at who's to blame. I think that the voters are getting really fed up. And normally our legislature is really appreciated. They're not like, in DC where they're right there next to cockroaches on the level. I feel like we've got great legislators who are engaged. I know you would be engaged highly. Bridger was engaged with the community. Scott comes out when he can, and Nicolene is here all the time. I love that. Do you see the comparisons between what's happening in our county versus Eagle Mountain and Salt Lake County, two other parts of your district that you're running for? Have you seen comparisons? Are they also dealing with growth? Are they also dealing with a school board tax hike that was denied this past time?
I can't speak too much on the school district portion of what you're asking, but I will say that as goofy as this Senate district is drawn, amazingly enough, we do have a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
I drive through Eagle Mountain fairly frequently just in the course of my work and some of my hobbies. And frankly, I've got a grandson that plays basketball down there a couple of times a week. So their issues, again, are infrastructure just like ours. They're growth related just like ours. The ability, we talk about how hard it is to get from Tooele to Salt Lake on 36. Well, try and get from I-15 to Eagle Mountain on 73. It's the same conversation. And so Riverton, Bluffdale, Harriman, West Jordan, east and west in the Wasatch Front, transportation-wise, is brutal. I spent almost 4 years as a trustee at the Utah Transit Authority, representing Tooele County. And actually, I represented Tooele County and all unincorporated areas within their service district. So I saw north and south in UTA and with transit is fantastic. East and west, certainly in Utah County, like Eagle Mountain, is virtually non-existent. And that needs to be dealt with. But it also needs to be dealt with in southern Salt Lake County too. So when we talk about infrastructure and we talk about what's the difference between what Tooele County is doing and what is happening in Eagle Mountain and the southwestern part of Salt Lake County, we're talking about almost the same things. They're all growth related. They're all infrastructure related.
Are they water related as well? Do they have a water crisis?
Not quite as much. The Wasatch Front specifically has access to a lot more water, mostly because of the way they're organized. Water conservancies and water districts are thick upon the ground on that side of the mountain. We have not been very successful out here at the local level, at the municipal and county level, at organizing that group to get together and pool their resources, for lack of a better word, and get that next step done, because that would open up a lot of funding mechanisms and the ability to go out and get some resources that we really can't afford to do as singular municipalities.
Do you know, I think that's something that is so good for you, only because I know you and I've been in all these meetings with you. You work so well with municipalities and the mayors, and you're a wealth of information for them, the council, and you see the value of that collaboration, which I'm sitting many meetings myself and I'm thinking, well, why can't we do this together? Just like you say, pull our resources, and then towns and cities start to kind of, well, no, we want to keep this. This is ours. We got our own stuff going. And yet in the long term, how beneficial would it be to have us all piped together for water, for example, access there, for energy. And energy is what I wanted to talk to you about next. And the West Desert. I know in our county, we are very eager to get an opportunity to have the potential for a safe nuclear power option. And the nowadays nuclear power is safer. It uses less water. It's underground. It's brilliant, and it could really be helpful for Utah as a whole. And I know the governor is backing the idea, and he's seen it, firsthand, and he's been blown away by the technology. Jared and I had, we had Senator Curtis, John Curtis, before he was the U.S. Senator, and he did a whole show on the new technology of nuclear energy. And one of the biggest drawbacks, regulation. And regulation, if we have any ability to control that regulation in the Senate here in Utah, how do you feel about that? And do you see a need to deregulate on some things?
Deregulate is a fairly generic term. There are some things that do need to be regulated.
Sure.
Having said that, the amount of time it takes to get a permit at the federal level for something like this is measured sometimes in decades.
Yeah, wasn't it for up in Kemmer, it took them like 20 years to finally get through all the paperwork and they're going to be cutting ground in the next 3 years?
Box Elder County is already on the boards and moving forward to get the first project to what Holly's been talking about. It's newer, it's safer, it's cleaner, it's not water intensive. Tooele County is working really, really hard to be part of that project as well. But at the end of the day, again, it's much like when we talk about developments. Time is money. And as you asked what they can do here in Utah, what the Senate can do. The Senate can do like what they always do, what they always need to do, and represent their constituents and the needs of their state. And I believe they are doing that. The governor's already leading out on it. But the key is at the federal level and making sure that we're sending good folks back there that understand that, and so we're all pulling in the same direction. The Utah Senate and the Utah House can say all the wonderful things they want, but at the end of the day, those licenses come out of DC. They don't come out of Salt Lake. So we've got plenty of state oversight, and I get to watch how that plays out with Energy Solutions. But this is a whole new playground, for lack of a better term, and everybody wants a piece of it because power is what's stopping a lot of the development. We talk about water all the time, but power is something that keeps people up at night because we simply don't have enough. This is an opportunity to get in early in the process and be on the forefront of this new tool and this development, and again, keep Utah ahead of everybody else.
Well, Utah could get the energy first, from what I understand, and then sell it to other states, but benefit the residents of this state first. And that would be huge. It would be huge, a huge boost for the average homeowner, renter. It would be really helpful to average families.
I would love to have the cheapest electrical rates anywhere.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to do that in this state.
Well, that, and to have the ability to grow into this. Washington, D.C. is a schizophrenic lunatic. It wants, on one hand, to move everyone towards electric, but then it wants to restrict the ability to build more electric so we can move forward. We can, if 50% of the people in Tooele bought an electric car, we couldn't support that.
Yep.
We don't have enough energy. We couldn't support if 20% bought electric cars. So, but DC wants us to move that way, but they're schizophrenic. They want us to move that way, yet they want to restrict the ability for us to move that way.
Well, California is a great example of what to expect. Rolling blackouts, time frames for when you can actually charge or when you can shower. I mean, I think California is a great example for what we should avoid. And the beauty of the members of our legislature, even the Democrats, a lot of them raised here with those same values of family and community and common sense. Not all the time, but I mean, both parties get out of the weeds sometimes, but we focus on our families here, and I think we can go a long way. And you're a testament to that. You were the biggest family man, you and Berna, with your grandma and grandpa days and your bounce houses for the grandkids. And I always said, if I could end up being a grandkid of yours in my next life, I would absolutely love that. Just so much love.
Berna would take you in. Today was Grandma Day, so
yeah,
5
it's
o'clock,
Wednesday.
the ambient noise level goes down to a reasonable level, and I can sit here and talk to you.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
We do have a question from a listener.
Okay.
It's from William Mara. He says, if you are elected, how would you like the citizens to remember your time in the Senate?
Wow, I'm already being sent out and I'm not even in yet. Holly touched on it. It's something that's important to me. And you just talked about how the Democrats and Republicans, and you made it sound like a surprise they can work together. I believe they can work together if we stop worrying about turf. If we can start thinking about what's best for everybody. We don't have to agree on how to do it necessarily. You've got people that want to close down the coal mines, and and they're valid in their convictions. They believe it's the right thing to do. You've got people that want to expand clean coal. Those opinions are valid, and they believe in them too. And we're all trying to get to the same place. And so to discount an idea because it came from the left side of the aisle or the right side of the aisle, rather than figuring out a way to say, yes, let's make it work. I would like to be somebody that was remembered for being willing to sit down with anybody and try and make something work that's better for the citizens and for my own constituents. I have a very good friend of mine last year during election season that she and I got into it over Governor Cox. Governor Cox and I have been friends for 15 years, going back to when he was you see, he was just starting to be a county commissioner at the time. And I was sitting in your chair, Holly. I was a party chair for Tooele GOP. And got to know the governor at that point. And this good friend of mine came up and was not happy with the governor, as people often are. And I said, well, what exactly is your problem with the governor? She said, well, he works with the enemy. He's willing to work with the enemy. And that sounded kind of vitriolic to me. I said, well, what enemy are you talking about? The Chinese, the Russians? Who are you talking about? She said, the Democrats. And that really took me back. And because at the end of the day, we may have opposing philosophies. We may have a different idea of how we want to do things. But in most cases, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, we're trying to get to the right place in the same place. We're just not in agreement on the best way to get there. And I got an opportunity to sit at the Elephant Club luncheon the other day and listen to Governor Cox and Governor Levitt and Governor Herbert talk about those things. And the common message from them was, there are no bad ideas and there are no bad people in this. It's everybody trying to get to what's best for our communities, what's best for our states, and maybe disagreeing a little bit on what path we take to get there. I want to be that person that figures out with both of those sides what's the best path to get there. And you know what? The right's not going to be happy 100% of the time. The left's not going to be happy 100% of the time. But I want 80% of those people to be thrilled when we get to where we're trying to go.
And you're moving the needle forward in a positive light. And as a group, that's exactly what we need. Because in DC, we're not seeing it. Everybody's so tribal. Everyone's picked their tribe and they stay to it. And it's really sad. You don't have to agree with Governor Cox all the time, but I've never questioned his love of this state or his community. And if you can just look at that and appreciate that in a person.
I'm reminded fairly frequently, and this predates, I think, you even knowing us. The first convention that I hosted as the GOP chair, and this would have been 2009, I think. First speech I ever gave to our delegates and our membership. And if you'll remember, we had no Republicans in county government. We had 3 commissioners, but every other elected office was Democrat.
Right.
And had been for generations. And I said that time, the energy in that room, and I said at the time, the only thing that could beat us was us consuming our young, was cannibalism.
It's true.
And we truly seem to be trying to do that, certainly at the highest levels of our government in DC. It's less about what's the right way to do it and more about who's writing the legislation and who's gonna take the credit for stopping this or that or the other thing. We just had a month and a half government shutdown, and yet people thought that was great. Well, the people that weren't working for 35 days and trying to make their house payment didn't think it was great.
Yeah.
And so if we get to that point in Utah, we're in big trouble. And we're not there yet. But we could get there if we don't get more people up there that are willing to work on a problem and not care who gets the credit and not care whose idea it was, but listens to all the different perspectives, figures out a way to go, and figures out a way to get there.
And they're willing to listen more, talk less.
Yep.
And that that's so important. And it's not easy to do for people like me, who I'm just so fascinated, and I want to understand, but I also want to help them understand. And you get certain people that don't want to hear it just because your messenger is a Republican or a Democrat, and they just don't. We have to get out of these boxes that we've been put in, and we've got to remember that we're Utahns first, we're Americans first, and that we're
human
neighbors.
beings first.
Yeah, and we're children of God. I mean, we are better off as a collective. And it's the only way to be a true republic, when we are working together to keep our government in check and not let the government do what it wants, because we're over here at each other's throats. And sometimes it's by design. We know it is to keep us fighting. So I appreciate anytime someone reaches across the aisle and is open to hearing other sides. I joke about Democrats, but the ones in my family I love dearly, and they do. Maybe they don't understand the whole picture, and I try to explain it. But I don't want to have a battle over Thanksgiving. I want to be able to be with them and enjoy them and love them. And I think that goes a long way. And you've got a really great ability with people. I mean, a great ability. When you were running the party, we were getting far more fundraising. We were getting great candidates to actually throw their hat in. And, that's one of my favorite things, is finding candidates and really good people willing to serve, and finding people who look at it just like that. Okay, I'm ready to serve my community. I'm ready to do what I can to represent my community. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to start this career. No, it's people who have other interests or jobs or careers, and like you, that go to the Capitol because you want to be informed and you want to give a perspective that only you have, maybe regarding housing and development, or the way the market's going, the issues affecting our county, and your ability to go in and give some advice there on your own free time. And I know it's just because you love to drive Lucy around. I know you said a hobby. He is the man that I can always count on caucus night or the morning after to do those long drives to Wendover to gather our packets, or Dugway. I mean, he fires up his cute Porsche and he's out of there. So
I was
awesome.
very lucky. You'll remember Senator Pete Knudsen. So we'd never really had. It's been a long time since we've had a homegrown Tooele County senator. Pete Knudsen was our senator all the time I was the party chair, and he was out of Brigham City, and he was an orthodontist, and he was a sweet, sweet man. And I remember going up to him on Capitol Hill, and there's 104 people up there like him, and there's doctors and dentists and bus drivers and teachers and police officers and military people, lots of lawyers, lots of realtors.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him one time, I said, how do you manage to get through these 400 bills? He says, I don't. He says, I'm an orthodontist. He says, I understand how that world works. I rely on the subject experts for this other stuff. And that stuck with me. And going back to my first legislative session up there, just as a citizen advocate, and realizing that these 104 people are just guys and girls that are taking 45 days off in January and February to do our work. And for me to expect them to know everything is silly. And you know what? When you call them, they pick up the phone. When you email them, they write it back, because you know what? I may know more about something than they do. And I've been blessed in those 20 years and when I was the party chair like you, to build some really amazing relationships up there. And people sometimes give me a hard time about that. Well, you're friends with all those people. Yeah. And why aren't you?
Exactly.
Why aren't you picking up the phone? You don't need to go spend 40 days on the Hill to develop those relationships. But you know what? 40 minutes a week behind your computer that you're already doing, complaining on Facebook. Why not shoot some emails to some of your legislators and say, you know what? I think the school board stuff should be partisan. You know what? I think we should do this about infrastructure. You know what? I think we should do this about government operations. Become their subject expert. If you're a teacher, Nicolene will hear from you.
Yeah.
Scott Sandel wants to hear what you have to say. He's a cattleman. I don't know anything about raising cattle. I know about eating steak.
And we have farms out here, and we have cattlemen out here.
So as a citizen, be their subject expert. Are you doing at-home daycare? Be the expert, because they're not doing that. And develop those relationships, which you can do from right here in front of your computer. You can do it right here on the end of your phone. You don't need to be up there. And that's the beauty of our system, is that we've got a volunteer legislature. I think there's only one other state that runs a shorter session than we do. These guys get a lot of stuff done in a short amount of time. And they can only do it if they're getting input from the subject experts.
That's so true. I think our county is leaning heavy on experts and studies. And I think they've saved a lot of money doing that. And I think our county's being run well, as far as I can tell. And that is something they focus on, is hearing from the experts before the money gets spent, and really hearing from the everyday people that it affects. I know you're such a community guy. I'm so excited that you decided to take this race on. What are your top issues, would you say?
Probably the same as yours, the ones we've talked about. They're growth related. How do we handle the growth? How do we develop infrastructure? How do we develop the water? What do we do to continue to make Tooele, Utah, and Salt Lake counties? I kind of put us all into one place because that's where the legislature's put us. But as I said earlier, our issues are similar to the ones over there. Do I know everything about Eagle Mountain? Not yet, but I will. And the same thing, I've got a breakfast tomorrow morning with the mayor from that side of the mountain. I can't wait to hear what they have to say about what's going on in their world. I can't wait to share what's going on in ours. And so for me, it's going to be developing more of a presence on Capitol Hill, representing the Tooele and the Eagle Mountain and the southwestern part of Salt Lake County than they've had for a while. And using some of those relationships that I've built up over the last few years that have benefited a lot of people. They certainly benefited me. I've got some great friends that have served up there. I'm going to miss working with Bridger Belinder. I was really, really excited about working with Bridger. Bridger's an amazing, amazing man, and I don't think we've heard the less of Bridger. He'll be back.
Oh, I hope not.
But you know what? We're in Tooele County. We're going to find somebody that's going to replace him and is going to do the best job they can. And much like Bridger, we're not going to agree 100% of the time. But I'm never going to have a doubt about where the Bridger Belinders of the world, where their hearts lie. And,
right.
It's going to be about service. So those are the things I'm going to focus on. Getting Tooele and Eagle Mountain especially moved up the list to get some of the traffic pressure taken down a notch. And we need to use our collective voice in this valley and in that valley to make the folks that have the checkbooks understand what our needs are.
We need to tell Google Maps not to put Middle Canyon to Bingham Canyon on Google Maps anymore and send a semi truck up and over that pass. Did you see that happened?
I was in the canyon one day when that happened.
Oh, could you imagine those last two switchbacks? You can't negotiate that with the semi.
Most of us can't negotiate with our SUV.
Yeah. So we've got the inland port coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about it. I work in manufacturing out here in the county, and I'm excited to see the wage pressure that it'll cause, because it's going to open up a lot more wages. We might actually see a real manufacturing wage increase out here in the county because of it. But have you heard any word on expected new businesses? I know we've got that J-Bill and that other warehousing company there, but do we have any word on what else is coming in?
I don't have anything that I can necessarily share there, and I don't have any super intel on that project. I think the people who are putting it together are doing a great job, and I echo what you said. I think That's exactly the kind of job structure that we need in Tooele County. They're already doing a little bit in Eagle Mountain with some of the things that they've got going over there. But what we're seeing there is we've got some natural benefits in that part of the county that not everybody has. Proximity to I-80 is a big deal.
The rail.
That rail spur is a big deal.
That's huge.
And a workforce that 70% of us are driving over the mountain every day. All of a sudden you don't have to. That just increased my wages because I don't have to spend, $40 a week on gas.
Yeah.
Do you remember you were with us when actually the Romney Group came out and was proposing this to the commission, and we sat through many a meeting, and they were talking about the inland port idea, and it was so amazing. And I know years later people act like this just came out of left field and how dare they, but we were there in the beginning. And one of the things that they also proposed was building like a law firm or a tall business where lawyers and medical professionals, specialists, other people could come into these high rises. I don't know how high they would be, but bringing a lot of professionals in. And that to me was like, this is so important. We do have the need for manufacturing and trucking and merchandise and distribution. And then you get an office where you've got lawyers here in the county, a firm here that could do great things. And that's just more and more people staying home and more kids going to tech school and going to college. We have Utah State out here. I mean, and actually investing so they get to stay home and grow their lives here and still hopefully afford housing that is $75,000 cheaper than going outside. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a lot of families thought that their kids would have to move away to find a good job. And slowly but surely, something like the inland port could change that, depending on the businesses coming in. So I think that's pretty great. What do you say to the people that will have been very boisterous regarding the amount of realtors or developers who are in legislature and that they feel like they're all in the pocket of these developers? We've heard this for years when our commission was accused of that for any new development. What do you say to that? Is it because you guys are actually inside the economic bubble and can see the inner workings, and that's a specialty that you can offer? We have a lot of lawyers and doctors, but what do you say when they go after the developer/realtors?
The process, the lawmaking, the statutory processes are complicated and they're not easy. We touched a little bit on being subject matter experts. Generally speaking, when you consider that 20 to 30% of our gross national product, and it's similar in Utah, is based on housing and development, I think it would be silly to not have some of those subject experts up there. Having a land use expert, when two things. Number one, everybody forgets we're overwhelmingly government owned in Utah. We don't have the buildable land that they do back east. So the ability to do more with less is pretty important here. And land use and being a subject matter expert, I'll go back to my friend Senator Knudsen. You know what, he'd be the first one to tell you, don't go to him with a land use question, but if I've got a problem with a wisdom tooth, I know who I'm calling. And the reality is, and I'm proud of my real estate background. I'm a second generation realtor. I'm partners with an amazing realtor. And I've seen what happens if you don't have those people in place setting policy. That's not to suggest that there's not everybody out there with a better idea. I'm not a big fan of NIMBYism. I understand it. And sitting on planning and zoning for the last 12 years, I've seen a lot of it. But invariably, the question that will stop a NIMBY is, okay, number one, where did you start out? What was your first home? Well, it was an apartment in high density. It was a starter home.
Yeah.
But we need people that can answer those questions and figure out how to make it so that Tooele County has your high rise, for lack of a better term, professional building. Tooele City, a decade and a half ago, created an education corridor out where Utah State and Blue Peak and the Tech are. That didn't take off because we weren't ready for it yet. Within the decade, we'll be ready for that. So for those people that are complaining, I remember very clearly the first time a realtor was on the planning commission in Tooele City. He got his license after having already been on the commission. And the chairman asked him that night, if we'd known you were going to be a realtor, we'd have never appointed you. And so I get that. But if you take a little longer view, I feel like my skill set lends itself to some of the problems that are cropping up, certainly in our Senate district. I've been trying to get people elected to various offices for 20 years in Tooele County. And I've also been begging our elected leaders to be civil one to another. I can't very well sit back and not participate in that process because I do think I have something to offer, both professionally from a land use standpoint, as well as from a communication standpoint and the ability to work together. Because again, in real estate, you have to create win-wins. You've got to have happy buyers, happy sellers.
Yeah.
Negotiation is what we do for a living. And as far as being in the pockets of developers, I don't know where those pockets are.
Yeah.
I wish I knew where they were, because I would like to go see some of that. But the reality is, I've got some friends that are developers. I've got friends that are realtors. I've got friends that are orthodontists. And the reality is, it's a relationship world, and I believe my skill set lends itself to building those relationships and then using my land use background to help us get us where we need to go to deal with these growth issues.
And these your experience is literally exactly what might be needed right now for where we are in Utah.
I hope so.
We do have a housing shortage or crisis. Again, folks, we need to think about your children need to grow up and move into something. Your parents may need to downsize and get into something. And bringing back these small starter homes for families, you know, the 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom or 2 bathroom. I mean, we all grew up in those homes. And I mean, they're an important part of the stage of adulthood. And you don't want to be, just like student loans, you don't want to be so crippled in debt in your first home that there's no chance of a second or growing, or a family that you're growing. It's tough. And now you sold my mother her home.
I did.
And she absolutely loves it still. And you would sell it for her if she was ever ready to move. And I think that building relationships, especially in any sales job, you don't just sell them a home, you're selling them peace of mind, and you're getting them the best deal. And if they're for either side, you're trying to take care of them. But return customers is the testament to how you worked their deal and how great they felt and the product that they got. I think that the art of being a salesperson of any way is so important, I think, in politics, because you have to sell an idea, but not just, hey, I've got this great idea. You've got to sell the back end solution, which is, how are you going to pay for it? And where is this going to come from? And who's going to hurt? How do we avoid that hurt the best we can? And always going in, you've always been a solution-minded person as long as I've known you.
Well, and I will continue to try and be that.
Yeah, you've always like, well, tell me what your solution is. Let's, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. That is the best outlook you can have, I think, in government, because we can all sit back and go, we'll just throw money at it. No, tell me where you're taking that money and tell me what money is going to do to fix it. Are there other ways that we can fix it? And I I personally have known you for years, and I've watched you work in all different positions, and your role with Energy Solutions. I mean, what a great caveat to potentially talking nuclear, clean and safe nuclear facility in our county. I mean, Energy Solutions is their top of their game as far as watching nuclear and anything else that could be toxic and handling it safely. And I mean, it's just it just sounds like this election came at a time that was just perfect for you, where you're at in your life. And
I hope you're right.
and I'm ready. Now, I have to be absolutely
I was
neutral.
say you
No.
can't be ready to do anything yet.
In
You're a
January,
neutral third party.
I am a neutral third party, but I would love it for Tooele County to have its own senator. Not its own, but to have a Tooele County resident as senator. And you and I talked about this so many times through 2 redistrictings where we were given that impression that it's going to finally happen.
We were so close.
Finally going to happen. And here we are again. But I'm excited for you to meet Christy Henshaw. She's very excited to meet you as well.
Good.
And
Forward to it.
you already know the Salt Lake County chair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yep.
I think you've got fantastic people in Harriman and Eagle Mountain. Will it be Magna as well?
A little bit of Magna, a little bit of West Valley, a little bit of West Jordan. Pretty much the West End.
Your hobby is going to get really useful.
I always laugh as we're dealing with the redistricting efforts in the courts over the congressional seats, and I don't know why they didn't look at the Senate seat.
Really?
But it is what it is, and there's good folks throughout this district, and I hope, Jared, to your earlier question, I hope when I'm done they remember that I wasn't just a Tooele guy, I wasn't just shilling for Tooele County, but that I represented everybody geographically, and that I wasn't just the senator for the Republicans, that I was the senator for the district.
Jordan has a question, kind of on subject, but a little bit off subject. He's asking, how hard is it? He's heard it's hard running as a third party candidate.
Uh-huh.
How hard is it to run as a Republican or Democrat? What's the difference between running third party versus one of the established parties?
Well, I think you're going to find that out. We obviously have a brand new senator right now from a third party. And it'll be interesting to have that conversation, because I think there's an inherent advantage to being one of the 2 established parties. And obviously Utah historically has leaned more Republican than Democrat. So I'm hoping that stays in effect for at least one more term. And not, I say that a little tongue in cheek. The reality is, I think that historically the values that the Republican Party has espoused fits pretty well with the lion's share of the electorate in the state at every level. And I think anytime you have something new, in this particular case, a third party, you're starting from ground zero. And I think, I want to say there were 1,200 people voted in this last election last week. And I'm glad they did that. But, it was 1,200 that voted. That means there were a few thousand that did not. And
was that election open to everyone in the district?
It was open to everyone in the district, is my understanding, as far as voting was concerned.
Where was the voting held?
It was held online. It was kind of run like a preference poll.
Okay, and, so it was held. It was open to everyone, but it was held by the forward party online.
Correct. Everybody that was a registered voter could vote, but you did have to affiliate with their party in order to participate. They had 5 finalists. I'm not completely familiar with how they became finalists. I don't know if that was everybody that applied or if there was a group that selected those 5, but came down to the last 5, and they selected Emily as their winner out of Eagle Mountain. So her job will be harder and easier in that she's going to have to start from ground zero to educate a huge number of people. But my understanding is that she's going to be the highest profile elected official they have nationwide, just like Senator Thatcher was while he was there. And so I would expect that their national party will weigh in pretty heavily with resources. So she may have some advantages that she might not normally. She definitely will have a difficult campaign.
Someone told me once that in the state capitol, a third party gets on essentially any commission they want, just so their party has representation, because the other two parties have so many more people there that it allows them, just so that they have, that party also gains representation in those commissions if they choose to get in there.
I simply don't know. To my knowledge, certainly in my memory, we've not had a third party member serving in the House or the Senate. So
Thatcher, I don't recall getting any special treatment or.
Well, Thatcher was in the third party for all of 7-8 weeks.
7 or 8 hours. It was very, very late in the session when
he jumped in,
change.
and then it was over. But that's just what they're saying. It was a constitutional party candidate that I spoke to that told me about that. Another home builder.
Uh-huh.
And he told me because of an outside party, outside of both the nominal parties, it gives him an opportunity to get on any of those groups that he chooses to get onto, just so they have party representation. And I would like to see how that plays out.
Well,
and I think that do Forward Party do a caucus where they have their members, or a convention, or eventually if they grow, I assume they're going to need to decide who goes on the primary.
It'll probably be an online thing. I mean, that's kind of their thing.
They're trying to make some changes in how things are done, and the online, this process that they've used over the last month is a good way to look at some of the changes they're making. I tend to agree, if they're successful and grow bigger, that process may become unwieldy. I don't know. I haven't studied how they're doing things, but and I'm sure they are looking at the future with an eye towards being successful, and how do they handle their growth.
Yeah.
Especially now I do want to say too, I want to be very clear that I wish her very well in the time that she's I want her to have a successful legislative session. I want her to be successful during interim, because at the end of the day, I'm a constituent. She's my senator. I don't believe in the old, well, I didn't vote for her, she's not my senator. That's not our reality. Our reality is this is our senator at least for the next year. And so I certainly wish her well. I don't wish her to suffer a difficult term. I want her to get some things done. I want her to be a benefit to constituents in Senate 11, and I've shared that with her. And I think
that's great.
I hope everybody looks at it that way. And just because an idea is new doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Could our parties get better and do things in a more open and transparent way that our public would understand? Probably. So, it's going to be an interesting experiment to watch. And like I said, it has no effect on what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I do. But this January and February, I want her to have a great session. And because if she has a great session, that means we all had a great session.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, in the coming months, we will be inviting her on. And is she going to run again? I assume she's turning around and filing.
I would assume so. I mean, she's been a senator for 4 days. So
yeah,
we'll see how session goes.
Yeah.
Well, she has to file
I would assume
in
that
January if she has an
she's going to have to decide pretty quick.
How do we keep reps out here in Tooele?
Well, we need to get out and vote.
Well, no, they keep saying, I'm not doing this again.
Well,
Are we that bad? Are we that awful on Bridger and Tim?
well, I can't speak for Tim, but I can speak for Bridger. Bridger felt that his time needed to be used in a different place. His priorities changed after the fact, and I know he thought long and hard before he made this decision. He and I had these conversations a couple of months ago. Bridger's a friend, and
Oh, Bridger's a great guy and
yeah,
an outstanding, honorable man.
yep.
As a
And,
representative, I don't think we could ask for better. And maybe
Nope.
that's why he's leaving, you know.
well,
He's-
like I said, I think he'll be back.
All
I
right.
think he's leaving on good terms. He's leaving for the right reasons. He will still be active in what goes on in this area, and you never know. I think we'll see him again soon.
Well,
I'm
on
happy for
that
him.
note, with a seat opening up, Jared, what do you think what would you think if I ran for the seat?
Great.
Well, do you want to think about it first?
He jumped right on that, didn't he?
Yeah. It's been something that Michael and I have been thinking about and praying about. And so I just,
Do it.
surprise. It's something that I'm highly considering and just weighing options. And I love this community. I wish that Bridger was still there. I thought he was doing great and just climbing so quickly. And I know that he's made a choice that's best for him and his family, and I respect that highly. And I respect people who don't go into it like a career. And even Tim Jimenez, I don't think we'll see the last of him. He was a valuable resource when it came to, his actual profession.
Environmentalism.
An environmental engineer. And he
Mhm.
provided a lot of context in a lot of the meetings they were having up there regarding that topic. And he was invaluable. So, I mean, the hope is to get good people running and people who want to do it for the right reasons. And I've been crazy enough to be a party chair and do it for nothing for 10 years.
Yeah, now you can go and work 80 days straight for almost nothing.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't want to figure out what your hourly
That's-
wage will be.
That's one
Yeah,
thing
but
is
getting a seat at the table and to be able to do something on behalf of my community and the communities of Juab and Millard, like we're a rural and we like to stay that way. I'd
Yep.
like to stay rural. I know a lot of my neighbors want to be still rural. And so with that in mind, just it's been weighing heavy on me. And we've only just heard the announcement, so it's still all
Yeah.
brand new. But
Yeah, I
January
read it.
filing deadline.
You've got a
is-
couple of weeks to decide for sure.
yeah.
Yes.
Jordan had a couple more comments. He said, there's a lot of nice houses in Utah. My oldest brother had to move to Florida because he couldn't find a house in Utah. And then he said, you seem like an awesome candidate, Chris. You would have my vote. And then he's cheering you on, Holly. He says, go Holly, run.
Well, thank you, Jordan.
Yeah. And then Williams asked if I had a good birthday. I did. My birthday was fantastic.
I love your shirt.
Yes, I'm wearing the shirt. I worked on my birthday, but I think I've worked every birthday since I was an adult. I mean, I don't know. It seems normal to me.
The older you get, the less of a birthday is anything other than just another day.
It's
this
another
was the
day.
big one. This was the 5-0.
Well, it's another
Except for
day
the
where
zero
you know
on it.
you're going to gain a pound that night because someone's poking cake in your face. And if you're a glutton like me,
Well,
you can't
happy
say
belated
no.
birthday.
Thank you.
And your whole family has birthdays in December, don't they?
Pretty much.
So you
Yeah.
pretty much have cake on the table all month long.
December's a wreck.
Then
Not
the
a
My
bad way
boys-
to be.
Yeah, my boy kicks it off, and then Katie's boys round it out. And then William also says that you look stunning tonight, Holly.
Oh, thank you, William. That's
But-
so nice.
With that, we do have to close the show out because I have to wake up at 3 a.m. and go and fix this equipment all day.
Well,
But
I'd like to say, Chris, do you have any final words or something if people want to get in touch with you or donate to your campaign or volunteer for your campaign? How would you like us to
Well,
do that?
let me leave my voicemail or my email. It's chrisgroup1, the number 1, at gmail.com. We have not hit the filing period yet, so while I am organized and the website will hit the day that we announce, which will be day 1. So the ability to donate there will be it'll be more likely after that period when it's a little more above board. But we'll make those resources available to everybody because this is not going to be an inexpensive endeavor. So I will be back to you with all that when it's time. January 2nd is 2nd or 3rd through the 8th is the filing period. So I will be in the clerk's office first thing that first day with our amazing county clerk, Tracy Shaw. And
Yeah.
maybe
look
Holly
forward-
will be standing with you.
If you like what I have to say, then give me some help. I'll use all I can get.
Okay, and
Thanks
that's
for having me on. Appreciate you both.
Chris Group 1 at Gmail.
Mm-hmm. There will be
Okay.
a dedicated campaign one when it's time.
Can you put that in the show notes?
I did.
Excellent. And
I
then
did.
you can always PM the show if you want to get in touch or
Yeah.
do go to his email, of course. Candidates always need volunteers. They always need sounding board if you have ideas or something that's affecting you. And they also always need money. And it doesn't matter the amount. I mean, unless you're writing big fat checks, then I think there's rules. But the candidates always need you, the people, to help them get to that win. And
I want to
this
hear
is
what
a
everybody
person-
has to say.
And this is a man that I know will be the guy that'll have town halls. He will be filling you in after session. He believes in the caucus and the convention, but he also believes in the people that don't go to caucus and convention. He's a guy, he wants to serve everybody and has his whole life. As long as I've known you, you've been a man of service.
You're very kind. I appreciate you.
And it's true. And so is Berna. And you guys are just
She's
a
pretty
power
awesome.
couple. Just the best. And then you get into these squishy little lovey grandparents and and it's adorable to watch. And I hope that you'll give her our best. And I hope you'll come on the show again.
Happy
Once
to.
filings happened and we start getting into Lincoln Day dinner will be on March 7th.
Okay.
So put that in your calendar. And then convention will be April 25th.
Look forward to both of those. Now, please let Jared go to bed.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you,
and Jordan, thank you. Thank you, William. Real quick
Jordan.
look.
Did you see Facebook messages? Because I can't get in there.
We didn't have any Facebook messages tonight.
Oh, mother.
High
Well,
rating.
she just visited. She didn't.
My mom wanted to see you, Chris. So
Yeah.
I believe she didn't leave a comment. And she's offered. So if you want her folding envelopes or putting signs up in her yard or whatever you need.
I just sent her a Christmas card yesterday, so hopefully she'll be getting that soon.
Oh, she'll love it.
Good. All right, everyone.
Well, I love you both.
Yep, love you too. You guys have a good week. Let's all send prayers to the victims of those 2 sad massacres that we had this last week. They're Bondi Beach and Brown University. Horrible things. Let's try to get our country on track. We got to quit alienating young boys and getting them to. We got to figure this out, and we got to gather around them as a community. Amen. Can't keep pushing them out in the cold. Thanks again, Chris.
Are we doing a show on Christmas Eve?
Probably not on Christmas Eve, but I don't know. We'll chat about it. Let's plan on not, and then if we show up, we show up.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you, KMMU, and thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you, KMMU. And your mom said great show, so she did make a comment finally. All right.
She's the best.
Yes, she is.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good week. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone.